Good afternoon, everybody. This is Chris Scully coming to you from Drive with Larry Monroe and our special guest, Chris Probst from Bill's Crestmoor Automotive. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So we were just talking before we came on the air about kind of some of the things you've gone through over the last year with your shop and the results of those efforts. And I wanted to dive into that a little bit. So um, let's start off with the fact that you're having some of the best production ever in your shop. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go from there.
We are having some of the best production. It's been a great year and this year is shaping up to look great. My goal was always to hit $1 million in my tiny little 3-bay shop, and in 2021 we actually accomplished that feat. It was tough. It took us about 4 years to get there. A whole lot of changes and new policies and new workflow, but we did. We made $1 million last year. We did just over $1 million. We're on track to do over that this year. So I'm super excited about that.
That's awesome. And what would you say are some of the most important things that contributed to getting to that level?
I think the team morale was a big one. Making sure we had a good staff that really clicked together and was able to successfully work together. Getting everybody on the same page with the way we wanted things to work as far as workflow. You know, we're for the most part, we're paperless here. We do digital inspections. Our workflow system is a matter of moving keys from technician boxes to other boxes. But having that workflow streamlined and having the whole team on board with the goal, and we're pretty transparent with our staff. You know, they know what our goals are. They know when we're struggling. They know what needs to happen, and they're pretty on top of it. And I think all of that has really helped. It was a rough year, but we did make it. So
that's awesome. Now, my understanding is you didn't always have a team that clicked.
We did not always have a team that clicked. No.
What an understatement.
Yeah, and you guys, we were talking right before we came on about you've actually had to rebuild your team over the last little while. Tell me a little bit about that and how you felt about that as you went into that process. I'm sure it was scary.
The emotional creature that I am, yes, it was very scary. And the kids that have worked for me over the years, they're not just staff, they become family because we're real close here. And you know, last year was super rough. We have had 100% turnover, 100% staff change in 2021. We went through, I think, 3 or 4 technicians before we found 2 that we really like and that we're keeping. One of the guys that I currently have has been with me for about 1.5 years now. He's a great kid. But trying to hire people, you know, we had technician turnover. I had service advisor turnover. So the only people that are still the same are the owners. So it was rough. It took us, we were without a service advisor probably for 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was me, but we were without a service advisor for 2 or 3 months. And then we were without a technician for 4 months, Larry?
Yeah.
I think it was pretty much 4 months. We had one technician and he's a solid B tech, but the A technician that we had working, he left. And then his buddy that he brought into the shop, he also left.
Which was a blessing.
It really was. The toxicity from those guys, it was rough. There was a lot of yelling, screaming. Sometimes there was tool throwing and
things catching on fire.
Oh yeah, the building catching on fire. Yep, there was the building catching on fire. Had to replace all 3 bay doors.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
car catching on fire.
Yep. That was a fun $15,000 awesomeness.
Okay, so let me ask you this. The guy who's toxic, there were certainly, I'm sure, problems before the fire.
Yep.
And so how long did it take you to decide that you needed to just cut them loose regardless of the consequences?
Too long. Probably about a year too long.
Okay.
Probably about 12 months too long. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we don't want to be short staffed because we got to get cars, because we are busier than we've ever been. I am booked out all of next week already. My first available appointment is the 10th. So, and Bill is older and we're trying to get him retired. But so we were hanging on to these kids in hopes that they would change or improve, which obviously that's not the case. It never happened. But biting the bullet and actually just saying, okay, let's just start over. Brian and I suited up. We actually worked on cars in the back for 4 months while we were looking for technicians. But we had told ourselves we didn't want to hurry. We didn't want to just hire somebody just to have a body here. We wanted somebody that was actually going to click with the group, become part of the family, and actually have our best interest in mind, because we really take care of, we give bonuses all the time. We buy food, we help out families, we do whatever we can for our employees. We wanted people here that would appreciate that and reciprocate that. And with the staff that I currently have, it was well worth the wait, to be honest. They're more concerned with the shop's well-being than their own well-being, but we take care of them at the same time. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, you brought up a number of things that, well, actually, I'm just going to ask Larry this question because it's something that he's intimately familiar with over a long period of time. But we've seen how many shop owners fail to pull the trigger on toxic employees and then wonder why they can't get their shops going.
Right.
And
Well, I've seen hundreds of them in the over 20 years I've been here, and it was not through lack of preaching and trying and pushing from the coach. It was.
I'm not difficult at all, Larry.
Hey, Chris, you're kind of. I've had more challenging clients over the years. It's always interesting when I call you because I never know what's the next chapter of Bill's Crestmoor, but I've had much worse, and some that more than a year, sometimes 2 years. And I keep telling them, I said, look, it's affecting you in a couple of ways. One, your production, because their toxicity is affecting everyone else's attitude. They're slowing down, but also it's almost like you've got a black cloud or a balloon that's floating over your shop saying crazies on board, do not work here. And I mean, I had a transmission shop in New York, and they kept losing employees, and they were left with a part-timer and then one tech. And he was really Mr. Attitude. And it was a father and son. They sat him down and said, look, we have to change this. We have to change the attitude. And the guy said, okay, here's the change of attitude. I quit. And we've been trying to hire and hire and hire. This guy quits. The very next day, the guy that was working part-time said, okay, I'll come full-time now. I wasn't going to work next to that guy. And that same week, if I remember correctly, another employee arrived and they hired him. It was just like the doors were wide open and the light was shining. Now it's safe to come and work here. We have hit the eject button on the crazies, and we're only welcoming the people that we want in our family. It was magical. I've seen, one more story and I'll let you talk, Chris. Too many times when they finally eject the tiger in the shop, as we call it, the very next day, the technicians start lining up at the boss saying, wow, I'm so glad he's gone. Why did it take so long for you to get rid of him? You know, it's like everybody was waiting for the boss to just pull the trigger, and
Right.
everybody got better, happier, more effective, more productive.
Well, and one of the things that through this whole process is I spent more time worrying about whether or not these guys were going to be here, ready to work and present to actually fix cars than I did actually running the business or focusing on everything else. My attention was focused on trying to make the negativity stop so that we could turn customers' cars, that I was neglecting other things. With this current crew that we have, now that everybody's happy and on board and we all get along really well. And on a side note, when they were grouchy, I was grouchy, and I'm kind of a bear. Chris
Really?
Grouchy is not a good thing. So, once we got rid of them, the entire mood in the shop just changed. And, never have I have 150 hours on my board that need to be completed over the next couple weeks. And it's because the mood in the shop is different. The guys that are here, they're like, okay, let's get it 7:30 in the morning. Let's start pulling cars in. Inspections are coming through, the workflow's working, the training that we have done on inspections. These guys are so open. They want the feedback when something isn't exactly the way we want it. They want the feedback, and on top of that, they actively take it upon themselves outside of work hours to research and study stuff to improve what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
That's
just
amazing.
the difference between having cancers and having people that actually want to be here.
Right.
Now let me ask you a couple of questions about that. Because you said earlier that you probably waited a year too long to pull the trigger on these guys. And you spent a lot of your time dealing with the toxicity as opposed to doing your job as the owner. Did you even realize that you were spending that much time and putting out that much effort to deal with it while you were going through it?
There was the past 18, so last year was very challenging for me, both personally and professionally. I did realize it. I actually, every day, I knew that changes. I told myself, we got to make changes. We got to make changes. But with everything that was going on, it was like I was trying to pick my battles. However, in after hindsight, there you go. In hindsight, I think a lot of things probably would have been made a lot easier for me had I just made that decision up front. I also don't like dealing with employees, so my brother does all that stuff because I suck at hiring and everything else. But honestly, had I made those changes sooner and not been just trying to bide my time in Band-Aid situations, things probably would have changed a lot sooner, and it probably wouldn't have been quite as hard.
Now, would you say, and I know because I've heard this from other shop owners, so I'm asking you if this was the case with you. Was there a certain amount of fear about letting them go, and what would happen if you didn't have those guys, or was it some other hesitation?
For me, it was these kids were family. I mean, inside of work, they kind of really sucked. Outside of work, they were great kids. And I don't, I come from a broken family, so I don't take family lightly.
Gotcha.
And when I welcome somebody into that circle, there's an emotional attachment that comes with it. And yes, I know you're not supposed to be attached to your employees. However, I spend 70 to 90 hours a week at this shop. So, I'm here most of the time, and the kids, they come to me if they're struggling personally or if they need advice or stuff like that. And I'm always there for them. And for me, it wasn't really a fear, but it was more like I was abandoning family members.
I gotcha.
However, over the last year, one of the things I've really worked on and explained to the people that work for me now is there's business and then there's the family that we are. If, yes, you are a part of my family. I will make you dinner. I will offer you a bed if you need it. I will come pick you up at the wee hours of the night if needed. But when we are at the shop, I am your boss, and anything after that is separate. And dividing that it's been difficult to separate those two. However, I've been pretty successful.
Great. Now, you said you took your time in hiring, make sure you had the right people. Was that a major change for you in terms of how you approached your recruiting and hiring?
Well, one, I wasn't handling it, so yeah, that was a major change.
Okay.
But Brian has skill. I've never seen someone be able to read and hire people the way Brian does. He's got a great success rate. So it's waiting to hire people. It was rough. I
Sure.
mean, I'm in the back, Brian's in the back. We're both working on cars. Bill's working on cars. And then we had Alex, our other technician, and Alex is phenomenal. He's a great kid. I love him to death. But I was learning how to fix stuff. I'm looking at stuff. I didn't even know what they were called, what the parts were called. But I'm just in there. Brian and I, we're just changing. We're fixing cars. And I learned a lot. And I'm grateful for those moments because anytime I need to jump in the back, I can. But it was rough. It was very rough and it was hard. But waiting and giving us that time to actually hire the appropriate people with the appropriate attitudes and the wanting them to mesh with the family that we have here, it was well worth the wait. Granted, yes, there was a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and everything else involved during that waiting period, but the wait was well worth it.
Awesome. And so currently you've got a great team.
Mhm.
I hear you're still looking for one more person, service advisor.
We're actually looking for two. We're going to bring on a fourth technician and a second service advisor. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And but the fact that you went through all that, the net result, despite how difficult it was at times, is that you have a much better shop.
Mhm.
You're busier, making more money,
Mhm.
and all of that ended up being worth it in the end.
All of it. I honestly, I wouldn't change except for maybe hiring people sooner or, getting rid of the cancer sooner. Aside from that, I wouldn't change anything else.
That's
It
awesome.
was worth the wait. It's worth waiting for the right people to come along, no matter how long it takes.
Awesome. And by the way, Gretchen's sending you all kinds of love in the chat as we're going through. Yeah.
Hi, Gretchen.
I figured she'd be in the background.
Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that we have an expo coming up, and I know you're going.
I am.
You've been to previous Drive Expos, of course. What are you looking forward to as far as the expo goes?
Seeing your smiling face.
Yeah,
Actually,
right. Okay.
Good.
I really miss all you guys. Brian and Larry and you, Chris and Dave and God, I can't even think of everybody else. Carolyn. I really miss all you guys. I miss not being able to see you guys over the last few years. I also really miss not seeing the other shop owners. I love the networking and the opportunity to talk about my successes just because I love sharing it, because if anything can help anybody else, I totally want to do that.
That's great.
But yeah, no, I am looking forward to, and the classes are great too. Don't get me wrong, but the networking and the things that I learned through the networking and seeing the people get recognized and awarded, I think that's so much fun.
Yeah, and a little bird told me that you're going for masters.
Might be. We'll see. We'll see.
I definitely think you should.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For what that's worth, anyway.
We're working on it. I'm gonna meet Larry's deadlines. Don't worry.
Good.
All right.
I like that.
Yeah, you can imagine what it's like being her coach with all of the adventures she's having. I mean, she is a rather brilliant business owner, and even though there's been a bit of a soap opera over the last 18 months, she's done really well. And I personally saw a change in her outlook when she got rid of the cancers. And even when she was having to work on cars, she was in a better frame of mind because she had all this attention that was freed up from babysitting
Mhm.
and worrying.
And that's a
Yeah.
big deal. That's a
Yeah.
really big deal.
Yeah, it is.
When you don't have to worry about other people and you can focus on the shop, that's a real big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, I think, probably the most important thing when you look at a situation like this is, and this is important for everybody in our audience to pay attention to. When you have a toxic person in your shop, that person is not only creating whatever problems they're creating immediately, but they're preventing all kinds of other things from occurring because everybody around them has to deal with that toxicity instead of doing the normal work that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and the distraction that it creates, and the mistakes and the errors that and the comebacks that it creates. We're still cleaning up messes from the techs that I got rid of.
Wow. Yeah.
It's better. It's starting to lighten up, but it's still there. It's still
Yeah,
there.
I'm
We're
sure
still
it
having to
is.
clean stuff up. So,
Yeah,
but
and that's something that everybody should pay attention to. I'm sure you won't make that mistake again.
no, nope.
But that's some of these things you just have to learn by going through them too. I don't think you would have imagined the difference until you actually went through that process.
No, and I am one of those people. I have a great fear of the unknown. I'm kind of a control freak. So if I don't know what the outcome is through things I can control, it tends to give me a lot of anxiety and freak me out pretty much. So this has been, and getting rid of these people it's completely out of my comfort zone.
Right.
And one of the biggest challenges that I've faced is getting out of that comfort zone and letting things happen that I can't control. But they don't all have great outcomes, but probably 80 to 90% of the time the outcome's pretty good. But getting out of your comfort zone is a big deal, because if you don't think it's going to work, it's not gonna. But if you never try it, how are you going to know?
Right.
No,
that's a great point. Well, we are coming close to our time, and Chris, I want to thank you for sharing your experiences. This story is something a lot of shop owners go through, and I think everybody can learn from it. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Congratulations on the results of all that effort. That is also pretty amazing that it all came together so well for you. So congratulations on that. And I definitely am looking forward to seeing you at the expo. And everybody else, the registration link is in the chat. Go ahead and sign up, show up at the expo. You will learn a lot from the classes there, but also from your fellow shop owners, because sometimes their experiences and what they can share with you can help you if you're going through similar things. So definitely come to the expo. It's going to be a great time, and it's going to be really beneficial for everybody. So with that, we'll say see you next week, and everybody have a great weekend.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
you bet. Thank you, Chris and Larry.